Battlestations people, we got a request for a computer desk review. How to get Linux dual boot off your Windows PC, SyncToys is not dead, and tech versus cat barf. It's all coming up on TekThing. A big shout out to our patrons. Without our patrons at patreon.com/TekThing, we couldn't make TekThing each and every week. Do us a favor, become part of the crew, patreon.com/TekThing. Thanks.
I'm Shannon Morse.
And I'm Patty Norton.
And this is TekThing, where we have something useful in every single show.
And today, we are starting with one of the, the foundations of technology and your experience with it. Not the keyboard, not the monitor, not the computer. At Oomph tweeted, planning on moving into a new house and realized that I have never seen a review of that ubiquitous part of a setup, the desk. If I missed it, sorry. If not, just a suggestion. I gotta say, I love this question.
I do too.
Oh my goodness. Also, Ed, thank you for the shout out on introducing you to Grado headphones. There are so many others out there.
They're so good.
I love headphones. Okay, we were talking about desks. I want to invite everyone. We've got your desk is coming, but I want to invite everyone to send a picture of your desk, or if you prefer the preferred non-internet Battlestation, which I like saying like I'm on the deck of a ship, on the bridge of a ship. Just email us with a brief description of what it is, a picture of it, what you do there, ask@tekthing.com. If you've never seen the Reddit Battlestations or the Battlestations Reddit, it is amazing. Join the 892,000 people in the r/Battlestations community. And what you have here is people showing off
Prime Video, no.
So
wow, these are pretty.
There's a lot of amazing systems. I like this one where it's like the IKEA lounge chair that they've mounted the monitors onto.
That's so weird.
But it's, there's...
That's nice. Oh, that's pretty.
Enjoy my
I'm all about the uplighting, so I'm like, ooh, look at those purple LEDs. Those are my favorites.
There's a lot of bias lighting going on in these.
There is.
Some of these.
There is.
But you get the idea that people are really thinking about how they arrange their systems, their rigs.
Yeah, well, of course they are. I mean, you spend so much time at your desk. You want it to be a place where you're comfortable and a place that you really enjoy spending time at.
You got really, because I was laughing, this is like your Battlestation desk thingy. Like you got really into this at one point.
I did.
What pained me, what hurt my soul, was that you didn't have a picture of what your desk looked like before it, because you described your desk at one point.
Oh yeah.
And it was like the inverse of all things of what it became.
I think it was a little embarrassing, so I didn't take a before picture, and then I was just like, let's do an after video. And I talked about like minimalizing it and making it a super nice gaming setup. So yeah, I do have a video that you can find over on TekThing's website as well as our YouTube. But it was basically set up to be very chill, very minimalist. Of course, I do have the LED backlighting, but you'll also notice
Sailor Moons.
A lot of Sailor Moon, but you also notice that I use this thing called the UpDesk Upright. So that's over at updesk.com. I've had this thing for several years. It works like new. As you can tell, it is a standing desk. Don't pay attention to all the cables. They look a lot better now. They were just set up like that because I had to buy a separate little networking stand for all my networking stuff, so I didn't want to Velcro them all quite yet.
I mean, the UpDesk is nice though, because you program it and you hit one button and it goes to the lower. You don't have to like adjust it.
Yeah, it's really nice. They are rather expensive, but they have several different kinds that you can get. The one that I have is the most expensive one. It's $895 for the UpDesk Upright, which means you can also write on the top of it. My ultra-wide Dell monitor fits nicely on it. It fits nicely on these smaller ones too, like this $595 one. So they do have some options. Since it is white though, as you noticed in the video, it picks up any kind of dust, cat hair, all over the thing, so I have to keep a nice little microfiber towel right next to it so that I can actually keep it clean. So I do think that when it comes to a desk, instead of white, I would prefer, or I would recommend going with something like with a texture, or black, or gray, or wood grain texture.
Black can be just as bad as white in terms of showing dust and other filth.
It can. So my favorite is a wood grain texture on a desk, since it looks really nice and natural. It hides the dust a lot better. It's my thing, but that one is not wood grain. So maybe one day I'll like buy some of that stick-on wood grain look and just stick it onto the top of the upright desk, because I never write on the thing. I would much rather just not pick up so much cat hair.
I'm thinking of I cleared a whole. I can't think of the stick-on plastic paper shelf liner stuff.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I've cleared several 100,000 yards of that out of my house.
I would totally use that stuff.
It does not age well.
No,
That's
it
all I'm gonna
doesn't.
say.
It doesn't.
Standing desks are interesting, right? People either live by them or they don't.
Yeah.
A lot of people buy them. I mean, in terms of like, you know, ratio seated to standing, like 80, 90% seated.
I'm probably 80% sitting and then 20% standing. And usually the 20% standing is just whenever I'm like running up to my computer, I need to do some work really quick and I just don't feel like sitting down.
Right.
And that's it. So I'm still pretty lazy.
It's right, because I have a friend of mine who has a very rigid, like, I can't remember at this point if he has one of the super fancy desks where it automatically changes height every 30 minutes, forcing him to change height because they exist.
Oh, that's cool.
Or if he's just, because he is, I mean, you know, his body fat's like 9%. He does his cardio every day. His life is meticulously organized. He may actually have an alarm that like every 30 minutes he like stands up or sits down.
Yeah.
But it takes, you kind of have to build the way you work around that. I have a very small standing desk at home. It is the KNOTTEN standing desk, which I found in the IKEA as-is / stupid cheap section. I did not pay $159 for it. I paid far, far less.
Good.
I actually prefer to leave my seated desk and use something separate if I'm writing, which is actually just as likely to be a box on the kitchen table, or preferably our island in the kitchen happens to be at the right height for my wrist when I'm standing. Because, you know, it helps me to focus, because usually when I'm moving around with my laptop, I'm writing and I don't really, it's me and WordPad and nothing else really matters.
Yeah.
If I'm using anything more complicated than WordPad, I want my ultra-wide monitor, which sits on a 50-year-old garage sale table, wood grain.
That's awesome.
Hides
wood
all
grain,
the dirt
yes.
until it doesn't, and then we bleach it and start over again. And it sits in front of an ancient steel case chair, which seems to A, work better for my lower back, and B, last longer than any desk chair I've used in any office in the last 20 years of being in and out of offices. Well, you're laughing, right? But
it's true, it's true.
There's so many places where like, we have your super mega fancy chair, and you're like, yeah, I'm Captain Kirk, I'm Jean-Luc Picard. Ping. You know, and it's
My husband has one of those. Crazy gaming chairs. Yeah.
Well, his is actually pretty cool because it's like a racing seat.
It is.
And
it's
hopefully,
a racing seat.
You know, the racing seat will probably never break. The question is, eventually, will the sort of height raising, adjusting thing explode on him? But I mean, how many desk chairs have you had?
Me? In the past like 10 years, I've probably gone through 4.
Right.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah, that steel case is 40 years old. I replaced the Emiko Navy chair I had before it because my wife stole it. Hi, honey. Hold my chair back. If I were smarter, I'd have my keyboard on a tray under the desk for better ergonomics. In terms of my monitor level at my eye, my chair, my feet, all of that is actually really good. And that's something I think you should think about is how much time you spend seated, you know, learning to get up and walk around or move around, learning to use a standing desk.
Yeah.
And also think about ergonometrics, because a lot of times you run into people who are like, a friend of mine was just like, it pained me to watch because the desk was too high, the seat was too low, and he was looking up at his monitor. I'm like, dude. Oh yeah. How do you not? Like, how does your body work at the end of the day? That's bad. It's like, oh, I kind of straighten everything out. He also did a lot of yoga, so maybe he just wasn't as broken.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe.
Well, let us know what your pictures are. I want to see what your rigs look like at home, especially with your desks. And if you have a standing desk, if you have other recommendations other than uprights, we would love to know what those look like. So send those photos over to ask@tekthing.com, or you can tweet either of us at Patrick Norton, at Snubs, or at TekThing. Patrick, I ran into a slight, we'll call it an issue, when I was uninstalling Ubuntu from a laptop that I needed to send back to Huawei after our review. So Huawei had emailed me and they said, yeah, sure, stick Linux on it, do whatever you want. And I was like, cool. But of course, since they own that laptop, I had to get it back to Windows 10 before I sent it back. So the next reviewer wouldn't freak out. Yeah, so I had tested Linux on the machine. It worked beautifully. But when I went to uninstall it, it wasn't quite gone. And it was kind of weird.
Define not quite gone, like part of the hard drive?
I thought it was gone because I went through all the steps, but then I rebooted it and it still said Ubuntu was there, but it wouldn't boot, and I was very confused.
Why is it? Oh, Windows wouldn't boot?
Ubuntu would not boot.
Okay.
But it said that it was still there, which it was not supposed to say that it was still there. It was just supposed to be like non-existent. So given that it was not my laptop, I needed to return it with just Windows 10, nothing else on the thing. So the problem was I installed Linux onto its own partition separate from Windows 10. So that was the very first part. Everything should be hunky-dory. So the drive was partitioned for 2 different operating systems, and the BIOS, or in this case it's UEFI, I like to call it UEFI, was using a different boot process to let me choose between the 2 different operating systems upon startup. And you'll remember from my review, whenever I booted it up, you saw either I could boot into Windows 10 or I could boot into Linux Ubuntu. So I started with a tutorial, and I went and searched online, and I found this awesome one over at HowToGeek, how to uninstall a Linux dual boot system from your computer. Cool, that's exactly what I need. So using the steps for Linux on its own partition, so I skipped this wooby part and went down here. If you installed Linux on its own partition, which I did, I deleted the Linux partition successfully using the disk management console, which they even listed in here in this tutorial in Windows 10, and it worked just fine. Like I got rid of the partition and everything. I also successfully expanded my Windows 10 partition so that it could use the entire drive again. But when it came to fixing the bootloader, and that's way down here at the bottom after you go in and you go into the command prompt, you're supposed to be able to fix the bootloader down here at the bottom. So if you're wondering what a bootloader is, that's basically the thing in your computer that tells it that it needs to boot into Windows 10. Right. The bootloader,
an operating system.
Yeah, an operating system. So it's the same thing when you dual boot. It's the thing that boots up at the very beginning that says, well, which operating system do you want to choose? That's the bootloader. So in this case, I wanted to be able to boot into Windows and not have anything else happening on the computer, but it failed. So while I did have a Windows 10 installer drive lying around, like the HowToGeek tutorial told me to do, and I was able to go through all those steps all the way down to the command prompt, as soon as I typed in the very last bit, this bootrec.exe, that bottom part right there, it just did not work. The computer said that the operation completed successfully, just like it was supposed to, and I rebooted. I knew something was wrong though because Windows 10 did not boot up, a dual boot menu did. Which was not supposed to happen.
You have failed us.
Yeah, so it turns out, and this is what I found out after a whole bunch of Googling, that a computer with UEFI, which is the Unified Extensible Firmware Interface, can sometimes error out whenever it's trying to use the built-in Windows tools to fix the master boot record. Now, after some searching, I was able to come upon an answer to this issue, and I found it over on Stack Exchange, which is a wonderful website for a whole bunch of Q&A whenever you have issues, especially with open source and Linux and also Ubuntu, of course. Now, these steps are basically the command line version of finding the Ubuntu directory on the computer and simply deleting it. So this not only deletes any traces of the dual booted operating system, but it also fixes the boot menu so that Windows 10 will boot successfully upon reboot. And when you run through these, it does look kind of complicated and scary, but basically all you have to do is go into your cmd.exe and right click to run it as an administrator and hit yes. And once you boot that up, all you have to do is go through all of these steps and just make sure that you read every single step and go through them correctly, and you will have no issues getting rid of Ubuntu off of your Windows 10 machine if you want to do so. Now, of course, I bookmarked these, and I will put them down in the show notes for you because it took me forever to find this answer. And it was so complicated, and I was just like, how do I get this thing off this computer so I can send it back to Huawei in time for them to send it out to the next reviewer? I figured it out. I'll put those links in the show notes for you. I know other people have wondered about how to delete Ubuntu on a dual boot, so this is how you do it.
And you did this in part because you didn't want to refresh and reformat Windows. You wanted to have the original Windows installation in place.
Exactly. I wanted that original Windows installation in place. And now if I did go through and reset Windows 10, the operating system, it might have still left that master boot record on the UEFI BIOS. So it might have still tried to restart and tell me that there was a Ubuntu setting on there, but it still wouldn't be able to boot into Ubuntu because I had originally deleted that partition. So that's where the issue was. And I was like, even if I reset it, it would still be there. So luckily, I was able to figure it out. I hope that this helps some of y'all out there because it took me forever to figure out, but now you know how. So if you have any questions about Ubuntu, because I like to leave it on my machines because I really like Ubuntu and Linux, then you can email me, ask@tekthing.com, or you can tweet me @snubs, and I will be more than happy to figure out all of those answers for you.
All of them.
All of them.
We love your questions, your tips, and your suggestions of products and ideas to check out. Please tweet @TekThing, @Snubs, or @Patrick Norton, or just email us, ask@tekthing.com. And a big shout out to our patrons, patreon.com/TekThing. You pay the bills, you make the show possible. Our thanks to you. Join the crew that makes TekThing happen at patreon.com/TekThing.
We got an email from Dave who writes, "You've mentioned a few times that backing up is super important.
True.
A free tool from Microsoft that really helps keep things organized across locations is SyncToy. It's a free download that checks and copies only the files that need to be moved with a nice automated process. It has 3 modes for syncing depending on your needs. I love using it especially for my family pictures, organized by month and year, and videos. The only downside is that it is not automatic but has to be initiated by you." Have a great one from Dave. Thank you, Dave. Much appreciated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny he sent this when he did because I just used it a week or two ago to back up and sync a collection of FLAC files between the Windows box that hosts my Roon server and an external drive full of audio files I use when I travel.
Oh.
If you've never heard of Roon, I'll talk about it next week. Basically it's audio file. Well, it's the music player for music lovers. And it's oh so much more.
Oh, it's so pretty.
It is pretty. Actually, you'll love it. I had no idea SyncToys still existed. The original app came out in 2009 as part of the Power Toys collection of utilities. And I actually had to get into Wikipedia because it had been so long since I thought about any of this. And think of it as a collection of tools Microsoft engineers put together and decided to offer to users without tech support.
Just here you go.
Literally.
Have fun.
Yeah, I mean, it goes all the way back to like the Windows 95 kernel toys, which is a long time ago. Well, it doesn't, but the idea of this with Microsoft being like, we have a useful thing here. If it kills everyone, no comment. So the installation is kind of WTF if you've never done one, because you have to give permission for the Microsoft Sync Framework 2.0 core components and sync provider services, and you might have to get the .NET framework installed, although I may be confusing that with another installation I did a couple weeks ago. And no, .NET nor are sync services desperate malware, nor is SyncToy, though Chrome gives you this type of file may harm your computer warning it gives for a lot of .exe files.
Oh no!
Well, it's I'm downloading a file from Microsoft.com.
Yeah.
I admire your conservative approach to security, Chrome, but I think it should be okay. It looks rather 2009 graphics-wise.
It does.
Because it came out in 2009. It hasn't been updated since 2009. It's really simple. Do you have 2 folders selected?
I do, yeah.
So you choose 2 folders. It offers you 3 basic tools to derp sync the files between them.
Now, luckily, one of mine is actually a flash drive. So right now, I don't have this plugged in, but as soon as I do plug it in, it will already automatically have its volume number, or volume letter, which is E. So it's already matched up in SyncToy. So when I plug this in, now this should work just perfectly. I do have a bunch of stuff in this folder to actually contribute. So I'll go ahead and hit run so you can see what happens. And there we go, we're done. Yeah, and it went really fast because I didn't have that much to share in there, but if I open up File Explorer, and I'll just pull up my, let's see. So these were the files that I needed to stick in there, so that's 20 items total. And if I go to my USB drive, we have 20 items total. So it did copy over everything automatically as soon as I hit that run button on there. So then I can hit close and we're back to the beginning. How cool is that?
It is cool, right? So there's synchronized where updated files are copied both ways across the two drives. It renames and deletes on either side. They're basically, if you rename a file or delete it on one side or the other, it'll
do the same.
It is smushed.
Yeah.
They are all made as one.
Yeah.
Echo, new and updated files are copied left to right. And it's kind of funny because when you choose the folders you want inside of SyncToy, you have a left folder and your right folder.
Yeah, don't get those confused.
Right, because in that case, like renames and deletes from the left are copied on the right. And then there's contribute, where new and updated files are copied from left to right.
Right.
And renames on the left are repeated on the right with no deletions.
That's what I'm using.
Yeah.
Yay.
I'd suggest being very careful with synchronize, because unlike a lot of traditional backup apps, this is not a backup app. It is a tool. It is an awesome tool, but there's no versioning.
Yeah.
So if you're synchronizing and you've accidentally deleted a file, synchronizing will cheerfully delete it from your copy on that external hard drive.
Cheerfully.
Cheerfully. I like to say, well, it's, it's doing its thing.
Yeah.
You wanted them synced? They're synced, man. If you didn't want that file deleted, you shouldn't have erased it. Or if you're not paying attention, or maybe you accidentally delete 1,000 new flags from the drive you almost ripped them to. Almost did, but didn't.
Whoa.
Well, I was sitting there, I was like, oh,
got lucky.
Oh, wait. That's not what I want.
Yeah.
Like Dave points out, it's not automatic. So you have to remember to use it. It's a really, really useful tool, but not what I'd rely on to keep my critical files backed up. That's a job for Resilio Sync, which is from the people who brought you BitTorrent or Box.com, or of course, Dropbox. You could also use like GoodSync or some other utility running on your NAS.
Yeah. But when it came to SyncToy, I found that Contribute was the best for me because I wanted to back up my laptop files onto a flash drive that I manually move over to my home computer. And then my home PC is backed up on my NAS, and it's also backed up onto SpiderOak, which I've talked about so many times on the show. So I end up with duplication on multiple places. Right. One thing I will note, though, that we haven't mentioned yet is this only works locally. So unless you have your networked PC drives mounted to your local computer, then you will have to use a flash drive or like a solid state drive in between them. But that might be exactly what you want. For me, I kind of like having the duplication on a flash drive as well before I copy it over there. So that way there's something kind of in the middle in case I screwed something up with the sync. So, because it is very immediate once you hit run. It's like, you can't stop that. So just make sure you're doing exactly what you want it to do. Just be careful.
Yeah. Just if you can avoid using drive recovery software in 2019.
Yes.
That's our goal for you.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Well, let us know if you have any other syncing toy alternatives out there that you want us to check out, because I'm sure there's probably a few, but I would like to know what those are because I constantly need to back up stuff from my laptop, and having something that was automated would be totally dope. Resilio might be the next thing that I would use.
So many cool things about Resilio.
I know, it's amazing. Let us know what you use, ask@tekthing.com, or you can tweet us @TekThing.
Please do. Steven has a terrible Roku story and some thoughts as a graphic designer working on Dell's new 49-inch monitor we reviewed last week, which looks a lot like this.
Ta-da!
Look, it's a giant monitor.
So beautiful.
He writes, I've been fortunate enough to have one of the new Dell 49-inch ultra-wide monitors land on my desk. I'm a graphic designer, photographer, photo editor, motion graphic designer, 2D and 3D animator, and sketch artiste. My pronunciation, not his. My 1 month experience using this monster shows it is very useful for working in After Effects, Premiere Pro, and Blender. Being able to see a large portion of the timeline in After Effects and Premiere Pro definitely speeds up my productivity.
Yes.
My experience matches yours. I tend to put the main workspace for each program in the middle of the monitor and the tool palettes off to each side. Also, like you, I wish it had more of a curve. That said, this monitor is definitely a net benefit over the two older 27-inch Dell monitors it replaced. Steven.
Yay.
So, he also added a PS on this one, which I adore because I do remember this. PS, you may remember me. I'm the guy whose cat barfed on his Roku back in the day and killed it. The Roku, not the cat.
Oh my God. Oh, that's horrible.
Dude. I do remember that because it was so much. We'd heard a bunch of stories about cats chewing on HDMI cables. And the cat vomit versus tech, so much worse. than a chewed-on HDMI cable.
I can just imagine, like, right when a cat's going to throw up because they start making that horrible noise. So I can imagine, like, where's the cat? No, he's on the Roku. No, and there's like nothing you can do. It's horrible.
Invert the Roku immediately.
Anytime my cat throws up on the carpet, like, I have that freak out moment where I'm just like, no, get on the ground, get on the wood. I can clean the wood easier.
I will say, in defense of cats, all puke on tech is bad. Drunken college students, toddlers, dogs.
Yeah.
Nothing really just makes tech more problematic than having to separate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your review.
And our sympathies.
Yes.
I will say it's amazing if you can sort of invert the stuff-covered technology device and flush it with rubbing alcohol. It helps. Always have 90% isopropyl alcohol. I should say not rubbing alcohol, like 90% isopropyl alcohol, which is better than 70%.
That's, yes.
Unplug the device first before running the flammable material through it.
This does make me curious if anybody else's animals out there, not just cats, but maybe like, I don't know, gerbils, have killed any of your tech. Let us know. We would love to know.
Have any of your cats killed any of your tech?
Off the top of my head, I don't think so.
Our husky chewed through a cable recently.
Ooh, bad girl.
No, she did a bad thing. She's not a bad dog.
Oh, that's really good.
I was not thrilled. Actually, it was a power cable, so mostly I was just thrilled that the husky, didn't zap itself.
Yeah, seriously.
But yeah, we're curious. Have you had animal-related tech mayhem? Special bonus points for anything involving squirrels and cables.
There you go. Yes.
I'm thinking of a terrible, terrible story involving one of my cousins and a cable line.
Oh, no.
A big thank you to Hack5 for the studio space. If you've never been there, go to Hack5. You can sign up today to get all of the latest information. But seriously, pen testing tools and awesome podcast. We want to thank them for sharing the studio space with us. Check out hack5.org. Then head over to c2.hack5.org to learn about Cloud C2. If you're thinking you need to spend a fortune to have enterprise-grade tools to analyze your network or get your pen testing on, you need to go to c2.hack5.org. Remote pen testing made easy. Deploy and manage fleets of Hack5 gear from a simple cloud dashboard. It is good stuff, people. If you want to see what's going on with your packets.
All the packets.
All those packets.
All the packets. And remember, once in a while, put down your phone, step away from the screen, close your laptop, and do something analog, like Corey, who writes in, "Hi Shannon, hi Patrick. This year in the middle of December, I traveled to Washington, D.C. to lay wreaths at Arlington National Cemetery."
Oh, wow. And
he also attached a couple of photos. The past 5 years, I had been traveling to Bastogne, I think that's how you say it, and participating in the weekend-long event commemorating the Battle of the Bulge. Wishing you a very happy holiday season from Corey K. And you can totally tell that he sent this to us back in December.
Very cool.
We were a little behind on that one.
If you've never been to Arlington,
I've never been, and I have family in D.C. I need to go there. I really want to.
Yeah, Arlington's, if you get to D.C., get to Arlington.
Yeah, absolutely. I really want to go.
It's a serious place.
Cool.
Oh, goodness. Thank you, Corey.
Yes, thank you.
I'm Patrick Norton.
I'm Shannon Morse.
We'll see you next week on TekThing. Trying to figure out what direction to take the conversation in, and just being like hobbits. Like, it was right now, because like right now I can hear Robert Harrod looking up from his desk and being like, somebody's talking about hobbits.
I know where to take the direction. If you don't care about hairy feet, but you want to see like crazy blonde hair, check out my Twitter, because I was posting pictures of me in a blonde wig all weekend, because I was cosplaying. Yay, cosplay!
Yeah, you're at Gallifrey 1?
Yes.
Getting your
Doctor Who.
Nerd on.
Doctor Who nerd, and I'm a Whovian, as they call them. What's up, Whovians? Comment below if you're a Whovian. Give me a little blue heart if you have emojis. turned on. Yeah, blue hearts for everybody. Woohoo, Whovians. TARDIS blue. What?
Someday I'll get through an episode of Doctor Who.
Yes.
It's been several years since I tried.
We have to make him watch Doctor Who.
Here we go.
Thank you everybody for watching. We'll see you next week. Bye.